My guest today is Maha Hadad. She is a specialist obstetrician and gynecologist and immigrated from Iraq in 1994. Maha, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. I lived most of my life there. When I left there, I was 25 years old. So 25 years of my life has been in Iraq. There've been a lot of joy and happiness. There've been a lot of moments of sadness. I had friends, I had family, I had neighbors. So everything that happens there touches a part of me. Yeah. And also what I brought when I came to New Zealand, part of me, part of what made me who I am, is the country I come from and the culture I come from. So it is painful to watch how this evolved through the last, let's say, maybe 12, 13 years. Yeah.
So what were your impressions of New Zealand and what it was like before you arrived here?
I have to say, we didn't have a lot of information about New Zealand in Iraq. I mean, we knew a lot about New Zealand because we did have a lot of New Zealand dairy products in Iraq. Okay. Oh, yeah. The Anchor milk was quite famous back home, and well, back in Iraq when it used to be my home, and also the New Zealand meat. But we knew Australia, and we already had friends who immigrated to Australia. We sort of imagined it would be quite similar, but we didn't have a very clear view what it was. But we thought it was probably going to be similar to England because most people there who come from England and spoke English and very English. So we thought we'll be probably similar to that.
So how did your first impressions, I suppose, measure up to those early preconceived ideas?
I still remember the day that we left Auckland Airport after we first arrived. It was it was the 31st of July, 1994. And it was a lovely, it was winter, but it was a lovely sunny day. And the first impression I had is, wow, this is very green, but wow, this is very quiet.
Compared to Baghdad.
Compared to Baghdad, this is 5 billion population. When I left, probably it's more now. Very busy metropolitan, and life was so busy there. But here, like everything was so nice, so clean, so quiet, so peaceful. So that was basically the first impression. However, it's a place where you fall in love with it the moment you come here. It's a wonderful, wonderful country, and it's a blessed country. People were wonderful, were very nice. Not a lot of people know a lot about Iraq, in spite of it being on the news for a lot of time. But a lot of people didn't know a lot of information about where we come from, or the idea they had about Iraq is totally different from what it is, or what it was at the time. But it's wonderful. Yeah, it was a lovely place.
In your experience, particularly perhaps in those early days, did you find New Zealand response to you as a new immigrant to the country to be one of tolerance and understanding, or were there, I suppose, obstacles to you? Did you feel like very much the outsider trying to fit in with society?
It was a mixed. A lot of people were more interested, like, oh, okay, that part of the world, do you have camels? Are there deserts? Do you live in a tent? So most people actually had no idea about the place I came from. A lot of people were surprised to find that we lived a very westernized life, and like Baghdad was basically a modern city, really. I mean, there are parts in it that very not as modern as other parts, but in general, the reception was really good. There was no hostility at all. And on the other side, on the contrary, a lot of people were quite sympathetic because we had to leave the place where we lived and for so many years, trying to search for a new life. So a lot of people were very, very good. And I have to say, especially the Christian community, because the first thing we wanted to do when we first came here is to find a parish and go to church. Yep. Because we thought, okay, this is the first place we were going to make contact. And that was a beautiful experience. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing.
In some ways, although you're coming from a place such as Baghdad, which from a New Zealand perspective seems like this exotic foreign country, the culture, the language, I mean, these weren't really as big obstacles for you as perhaps some people that travel to New Zealand.
It is correct in a way. The language definitely wasn't an obstacle. However, it takes a while to get used to the New Zealand English.
Yeah.
And to start with, I mean, we had a bit of a difficulty understanding because it's a different dialect from what we used to. Yeah. And one of the funny things is, you know, how people sometimes when they say, "How are you?" they say, "Good, good." Yeah. And quite often we didn't figure out why people were repeating the same word twice. They got a stutter or something. And so that was just a very mild, let's put it this as a very little sort of step that we had to overcome. But it was easy. It was easy. It was very easy. The culture, as I said, I come from a urban area, and life that I come from in Baghdad was pretty much, similar to the way of life. And when I left Baghdad, it was a very metropolitan city. The clothes we wear were the same. Women were judges and doctors, and we had our social clubs and social activities. So it wasn't as much, but the community was still a bit more conservative, more, how do you put it? I have to find the English word for that. More careful about the image and what you look like and what the impression you give to others and what the others would think about you. And so these are the things that can sometimes put a bit of restriction on what you do and what you say. Yeah. The
Iraqi community in New Zealand, I understand there's quite a vibrant community, and in some ways you can have the best of both worlds. You can be in New Zealand but still have a little bit of the Iraqi culture as well. How do you balance that?
I have to say, what happened is when the first people came to New Zealand, the Iraqi, it's because it happened in waves. Quite often when you migrate to a new country, try and settle in a place where there's someone you know settles there for support. And you try and seek that support in someone either from the same country or from share the same faith with you, or from some environment that's you're trying to find some similarities or something in common. So that's why there was already a small number of Iraqi people settled in the North Shore, and we sort of went and lived in the North Shore when we first came in, and that community grew as time went by. However, most of us who came here came in an age, sort of relatively young age, and sooner or later most of us found our sort of our way through our professions, and or if we didn't do the same thing that we did back home, we sort of found our a new way to sort of find a new job or study or do things. So the thing we enjoy now, yes, we enjoy a lot of Iraqi. We have a lot of Iraqi friends, but we also have a lot of Kiwi friends. We still can speak the language without having, we won't forget the language. Our kids still enjoy being exposed to where their parents come from, plus they're pretty much New Zealanders because they were all born here and grew up here. So I think our kids will get more benefit of the double culture thing than us, because they will see where we come from, and we'll try and give them the lovely things from our culture, and also we're trying to encourage them to pick up the good things from the New Zealand culture. And that will be a wonderful thing if they can manage to get the good things from the two worlds and combine it together and come up with something nice.
For yourself, are you Iraqi? Are you a Kiwi? Are you both?
Our Kiwi friends they call us Kiwi Iraqis. New Zealand is pretty much home. It's been my home since 1994, and it will always be my home. However, part of me is Iraqi. Part of what made me was my culture and my community, and that's who I am. But I consider myself very much now a New Zealander.
Maha, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.